Welcome to a new video. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. The first story is called, I'll Show You Slow. My stepdad is a charter bus driver. I'm in the United States, and something to note about speed limits on the freeway where I'm at is that you sometimes have slower speed limits for semi-trucks and buses. Usually, something like 70 miles per hour for regular vehicles and 60 miles per hour for regular cars. Also, the standard is that most people go about 5 over the limit. This time, my stepdad was driving a college team to and from their event. The coach was being a bit of a jerk about getting there and home on time. But my dad just shrugged it off, as he knew he was going to make it there with time to spare. A couple of days later, he saw that he was scheduled to take the same team next week. He emailed the coach to get some of the details on the trip. Pickup, meals, equipment, etc. The coach sent a snarky email back with the details and some additional language along the lines of, "And can we drive the speed limit this time? Last time you were below the entire way." The coach also included his boss in the emails. My dad responded professionally that he goes the speed limit. The coach responded that when they've had other drivers, they all did 70 on the freeway. So now the boss is mad since all his drivers just got thrown under the bus for speeding. My dad was mad as he's catching flack from his boss, other drivers, and the coach. Other drivers are mad as well, as the boss is now on their case for speeding. The boss makes it clear: no speeding. So my dad shows up with a printed copy of the regulations to pick up the team. He shows the coach where it says buses obey the truck speed limit, then proceeds to drive the exact speed limit the entire way. The next story is called, They Tend to Get a Bit Stingy. I worked at a golf course for a while. One day, I was out trimming the grass and came across a yellow jacket nest. Fortunately, the first ones to come out just happened to hit my string, so I saw them before they could get to me. I stood there for a while with my string spinning over the opening. Not a single one made it out crawling or flying. Then the superintendent of the golf course came up to me and started yelling at me for staying there too long. Normally I would shut off my trimmer when he got my attention, but I wasn't about to let him out. I pointed to the opening and the bisected yellow jackets flying around the place and told him I couldn't move until they stopped coming out. He yelled back, "Get this area done in 15 minutes or you'll be coming in Sunday to stir the compost pile." I just said okay, backed up as fast as possible and took a few stings and bites. But since at that point, he was closer to the hole, he got the worst of it and nearly hit 3 golf carts after he got back into his utility cart and sped off. And when I finished up and got back to the shop, he called me into his office to yell at me. He wasn't going to fire me, he's the type who will give you the worst jobs until you quit so you can't claim unemployment. And he said he was going to knock me down to minimum wage. At that time I was only 10 cents above minimum wage, so not much of a threat. And I would be coming in every Sunday to stir the compost, and he'd figure out how to deal with the overtime issue later. I calmly reminded him that if the Sundays took me above the 40-hour mark, the only way he would be able to legally avoid paying me overtime would be to give me time off throughout the week to keep me at or below 40 hours. Then I reminded him that not a single yellow jacket had made it out until he demanded that I move on. They only got out to attack after I followed orders that he had issued after he clearly saw that there were yellow jackets trying to leave the nest. Then I asked him if he was going to report the injuries I sustained as a result of his orders to security, or if it was my responsibility to do so. All injuries had to be reported to security, no matter how small. But we usually just let mild cuts and stings that didn't cause an allergic reaction slide. I wasn't actually worried about the stings. I had gotten worse from larger nests at my brother's house than I did at work with no ill effects. But when dealing with someone like this, you pretty much have to point out everything you have. He was never the type to admit when he was wrong, and that didn't change that day. He still acted like I was solely responsible for both of our stings, but he just sent me on to my next task, still earning 10 cents above minimum wage, and I still had Sundays off. The third story is called, Rebill My Account. I work as a long-term care biller. I do pharmacy billing for nursing homes and assisted living facilities. So any medicine they get, I bill. My company is contracted with facilities and we provide medications to people in care. I've been working in this field for 16 years. The company I work for does something that is absolutely unheard of in pharmacy billing. They care about their patients. So, if your insurance drops a copay of $20, but the at-cost price is only $5, we charge you the $5. We give you the lower price. This is really rare in my field. Most pharmacies are out to screw everyone. My company actually gives you a better deal. Here comes Karen. It was an inbound call. "Hi, I'd like to talk about my mother's bill. She's at this nursing home." "Okay, what's your customer number?" I pull up the customer number in our system. "You didn't run this through my mother's insurance." "One moment please, let me check this out." "Yes, we saw that your copay was actually higher than the at-cost rate, so we dropped the charge down, so it's cheaper for you. I pay for insurance and I expect insurance prices." "Of course. But we charge you the lesser price." She interrupts me. "I don't care about your prices. I want it ran through the insurance. For tax purposes. Regardless of that, we can send you an itemized tax paper to show what you paid. We just are trying to give you the lower. I want this ran through the insurance. This is ridiculous. You aren't billing my insurance." "We did, but our cost gives you a lower price, so we charge you the lower price. I am done with this. Bill the insurance. Your bill is $75. If I bill your insurance, they will raise your bill. It will not, and I expect you to rebill my account to the insurance and mail me a new statement." "Yes, ma'am." The call ends. So I proceeded to rebill the account. Her bill goes from $75 to $396. She gets her new bill a week later and calls back. She is yelling like crazy, of course. My boss backed me and told her that since it's been over 30 days since the medicine was dispensed, we can't reverse the claims. She's stuck with the bill. The next story is called, "We Won't Get Our Earnest Back." Now, I would like to say that this situation doesn't apply to everyone. And perhaps may not be morally right too. But it's a question of $10,000. My wife and I decided to finally purchase a home in Southern California. A brand new, decked out 4-bedroom home that really felt like something we didn't deserve. We gave in an earnest deposit of $10,000 towards an escrow account which would then go into the closing costs. The closing period we requested was mid-September. Meanwhile, my wife's employer informed her that her team may go through some corporate restructuring and she may be fired. Nothing big, it happens in her industry at times, with all likelihood that she would simply transfer to another team. However, what makes our situation tricky is that we are on a work visa, which means finding another job and filing legal paperwork can be very dicey. With this development, and our general desire to seek out better opportunities abroad, we were getting nervous about this commitment. We informed the builder and their lender that we are contemplating canceling the loan because of this situation and we would like our earnest deposit. We never assumed it would be easy, but were hoping someone would hear us out. We immediately got told by the sales agent that since our deposit has been in escrow for more than 30 days, and since we have conditional loan approval, we won't get our deposit back. The lender was very understanding, but for some reason was anxious to have us cancel the loan and said that he would be happy to work with me on future loans. I was a bit suspect since he was the builder's lender, he would always back the builder. I told him to hold off since I didn't want to cancel before I fight to get my deposit back. We requested the sales agent to reconsider and talk to her superiors, even offering to mediate a call between my wife's manager and them to understand the impact. The seller was under the opinion that unless she gets a pink slip, we don't qualify to get our money back. We started panicking but looked through the purchase agreement where we found a clause that if we failed to get financing, the buyer is eligible for a refund. When a few backs and forth emails didn't help, the seller agent simply asked if we would like to sign the cancellation agreement on the last day of July. Closing was a bit more than 45 days away. I realized that while we would fight tooth and nail, our worst case scenario is we lose $10,000. Whether it is on the last day of July or we lose during closing, it is the same for us. However, if we keep the agreement on without cancelling, only for us to fail at closing, the seller can't find another buyer, despite knowing that we won't be closing. I emailed her, saying that we are confident that we won't meet financing, which is a requirement for maintenance of escrow during the closing, but we desire to continue with the closing date of mid-September and not cancel. This means the worst case was that we lose $10,000 in September. Worst case for the seller. They can't find another buyer until then. Within 10 minutes, we got told that we are getting our deposit back. We were ecstatic. We felt sorry that we weren't able to close on our home, but we didn't want to be in a bad loan and put everyone else under stress. The last story is called, "I'll Do It For You." This story started about a couple of weeks ago. I am a high school student, enrolled in driving classes. My driving teacher, at the start, made the impression of a stern but nice guy. He was talkative to the other people, and at the start I actually quite liked him. It all started when I was driving about 2 weeks ago. I thought I was doing fine, but he started going on about how I seemed angry, how obviously aggressive I was, and that I was taking my anger out at other drivers. His reasoning? My facial expressions and the way I was holding the steering wheel. His claims had no actual reasoning behind them. Not once did I make a mistake which could have warranted this. So I tried to explain to him that I am a student driver, and that I am here to learn, and that I had no other intentions in mind. This angered him to the point where he was screaming at me, and I was in tears. He made me pull into a parking spot in front of a grocery store because I was stressing him out too much. When he got back, he started interrogating me on my mental health, claiming it was clear that I have issues, and that unless I deal with them, I shouldn't be driving. It's worth noting that I don't suffer from any mental health issues. This was completely random. I dealt with this until we got back to school. I considered reporting him for what happened, but I figured maybe he was just having a bad day, and since I and everyone else in the car liked him, I just decided to put it aside. That was until this week when it hit the roof. I get in the car for this week's lesson and start driving. Everything is going normal, up until we hit some traffic. I'm in the left lane of a pretty busy road. The car in front of me is turning, so I'm waiting behind it. All of a sudden, he grabs my wheel and yanks it to the right, saying that we are changing lanes. I don't have time to react, so my hands tense up on the steering wheel reflexively. It was an incredibly stupid move on his part, as there was a massive truck going full speed ahead in the lane he was trying to turn into. Nevertheless, the car somehow manages to get into the right lane without hitting the truck. All this happened in about a second, and I was just glad to have made it out unscathed. Now after about a minute has passed, he starts yelling, loud, "Do you want to stop driving?" No, why? Because I know what you're trying to do. You were trying to hit that truck. Now I am going to ask you again, are you okay? At this point, I was in shock, and could barely muster up anything to say. So I just said, I wasn't trying to hit anything. I'm here to learn. Then why did you jerk the steering wheel when I was guiding your turn? If you were trying to learn, you would have let me make the turn. You are clearly trying to harm other people. No, I'm not. It's not a matter of if you are or not. I know what you're trying to do. Ever since that other time I've known that you're mentally unhinged. Now I want you to tell me why you are trying to do this. What's wrong with you? I wasn't trying to do anything. Yes, you were. Stop lying. There is way too much evidence against you. Now tell me this, do you want me to get the principal involved? No. Then tell me what is wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with me. Please calm down, I am driving. If you don't tell me why you're trying to harm others as well as everyone in this car, the principal will find out about this, and you will be arrested. At this point, the exchange went back and forth with him shouting at me, do you want the principal to find out about this? And me responding with no. Eventually, he just said, the principal will hear about you. And I just said, fine. After things slowly calmed down, there was a bit of silence in the car, really awkward. Occasionally he went about saying, I can't believe you would do that. But I just stayed silent. We got close to the school, and he then proceeded to give me a speech about my own mental health, saying that it doesn't matter how hard my life is, I have no excuse for trying to harm everyone in the car and harm those around me. Yes, he was 100% serious when he said this. He was convinced I was attempting this. He went on about me having anger problems and serious mental health issues and told me that since I have those issues, I have no business to be driving with him or others. He offered to talk to me about my issues. And again, I just told him he's wrong. Immediately after I left, I went ahead and did exactly as he said. I called up the principal and made sure to tell him everything the teacher wanted to tell him. I made sure to say that I have no business driving with him, just as he said. There was a big thing the next day. They called down everyone who was in the car with me, and had them each give their stories. In the end, he got fired for exactly what he wanted. I kind of feel bad for what happened. He was nice to the other students, and everyone seemed to like him actually. But that's what happens, I suppose. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.